Okay, so Nintendo has released their official timeline of the Zelda series, and I've thought and thought and thought so many details, facts, and speculation of little different things throughout the series, and I can only say that I am mind fucked. Like, there's so many things that I counted for, which make the official timeline just not make sense for me. Like, I don't know, it's really just pissing me off. Um, so I guess I approve. I mean, me myself and thousands of other theorists had not even considered a third split in the timeline, and because the whole two split, when I started thinking about it, already you know. But the third one, I've been kind of neglecting, or not neglecting, reluctant. That's the word. I've been reluctant to even start to believe this official um, timeline. Um, well, for first off, Skyward Sword. You know, everyone already can tell that's the first one. I mean, they create the Master Sword, the Sky Era, blah blah blah. Um, and then the timeline follows to Minish Cap and Four Swords. Um, that's the one thing that bugs me. Um, I mean, Skyward Sword, Link and Zelda, they're not. They're I mean, they're already friends. You know, the royal family isn't even established yet and stuff. But Minish Cap, um, the legend before the game starts in Minish Cap, they talk about the hero of man, but they never really established who exactly the hero of men is. And people say, "Oh, that's in the beginning because Link gets his hat." Well, yeah, of course, it's the Minish Cap. Of course, that's where he's gonna get his hat. But I mean, sure, it's a coincidence, but that doesn't really mark the whole green beanie tip pointy look for the Link costume. Um, Another thing that bugs me is Skyward Sword. Um, they spend this whole beautiful, crazy game talking about how the Master Sword, the Bane of Evil, is created. Yet, if Minish Cap and Four Swords is to follow, why are they gonna build up the Skyward Sword, aka Master Sword, just to completely forget about it hundreds of years later in Minish Cap when they forged the Picori blade? It doesn't make sense. Um, but whereas to Ocarina of Time, you go to the Temple of Time, you put the spiritual stones in their place, and they find the Master Sword sitting in its pedestal, and Navi says, "Oh look, it's the legendary blade, the Master Sword." I mean, yeah, that's obviously the reference towards Skyward Sword. Um, but in Ocarina of Time, there is nowhere that it states that it has anything to do with the Four Swords or Minish Cap. The story is completely irrelevant. That's what I believe. Um, let's go forward. Ocarina of Time. This is obviously the most important game. One of my favorite game in the series personally, but this is where it splits off to the adult timeline, the childhood timeline, and who would have thought the failure timeline. Um, since there was no official point in time where they say that where Link fails, um, I researched a bit, and apparently since Zelda sends Link back in time to live out his childhood, where they create the child timeline, um, he never went forward 7 years in time to save Hyrule. So that's where the failure happens, as in basically Link disappearing off the face of the earth and never coming back. Um, okay, I'll start with the adult timeline. Um, Everyone knows that Link, uh, he gets sent back in time. He is in around to save Hyrule when Ganondorf is released, and the sages they flood Hyrule, and that's where Wind Waker happens. Yeah, that's basic stuff. Then obviously the direct sequel is Phantom Hourglass. Um, but here's the thing that I believed. After Phantom Hourglass, I would say that that's where a Link's Awakening happens, because I mean, just the whole wind, hero wind theme, like that's where it all fits. Um, let's say with after Phantom Hourglass, Link, he escapes the ghost ship and wakes up and it's like, oh look, it's all just a dream. Um, and then Link's Awakening, also just another dream. Um, the hero Wind is sailing around the Great Sea, and this is, I believe, he gets shipwrecked. He lands on Kolin, or whatever you pronounce it, island, and that's the whole event of Link's Awakening. That's where he meets the Great Windfish. He basically, I mean, yeah. um, Moving on from there, I guess that where I would end the whole story with the hero of Wind. Um, and then obviously Spirit Tracks. Um, back talking about to the hero of Wind, um, the King of Hyrule wished upon the Triforce that Hero of Wind and Techa would create a new land called New Hyrule, and that's where the events of Spirit Tracks take place. Um, and what I place, I mean, I cannot ever find a reasonable place to put the Oracle series, but that's where I would put it next, because Oracle series, you see Link returning on a horse, everything's different, blah 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 blah. But there's like some events with like some bosses and enemies that come into the series, but you know Oracle series has always been like a, I mean, some people believe that ages belong in this timeline, uh, seasons belong in this, and they both. It's like no, I don't know. Fuck oracles. Um, but that's where I would end the adult timeline. Now to the childhood timeline. Um, Obviously Majora's Mask. He gets or he. Let me back up. Before he goes to Majora's Mask, Link warns Hyrule Castle about Ganondorf. He wait, what am I talking about? This is after Majora's Mask. Anyway, um, yeah, as I was saying, uh, Link goes to warn um, the Hyrule Castle. Ganondorf is arrested. The sages attempt to execute him, and but only the Master Sword, which Link never got because he was sent back in time. Blah blah blah. Um, Only the Master Sword could kill Ganondorf at the time, because that was the universal bane of all evil. Blah blah blah. Um, he basically sent him to the Twilight Realm, where they didn't have to deal with him. Um, Anyways, there's Majora's Mask, and that leads up to the Twilight Princess, and everyone knows what goes down in Twilight Princess. That's an obvious thing because, there's all these theories, sub theories I would call it, with the hero shade. Link, hero time turning into a Stalfos, looking for Navi in the forest or whatever. Also with the Link and Milan, all the other girls turning to sages, and there's Milan and there's Link left, and yeah, Twilight Princess Link, he's like, mm, he's a rancher. Epona is supposedly the same, and blah blah. Anyway, Um, that is where I have my evidence where Twilight Princess is after Majora's Mask. Now, um, with the official timeline saying that the Four Swords Adventures comes after this, that's just no. Um, what I believed was that A Link to the Past happens after Twilight Princess because, um, well, first of all, Link, he never, or let me back up, not Link, but the hero of time. You know, he never did this, he never did that. He never really gathered um, the spiritual stones back in that game to get the Master Sword. Um, but in A Link to the Past, this is where you gather the three stones of virtue. I think that's what it's called. You know, they appear differently, like pendants of virtue. There you go. You know, they appear differently in the games. They have different names in the games, but they're virtually the same thing. You collect all three of them, then you have access to the Master Sword. Uh, that's why I believe there's another reason why A Link to the Past is in the childhood timeline. Um, and also with the whole, you know, Sacred Grove, Lost Forests, you know, the whole, or, back up. I'm lost. I don't know. The Master Sword, how it moves from the Temple of Time to the Sacred Grove is a mystery, and will always be a mystery to me. But Twilight Princess, that explains how it is somehow ends up in the uh, Sacred Grove. Sorry, I'm like losing my train of thought. Um, but anyway, some people might believe that, or some people could argue with the whole spiritual stone thing, like people, or how he didn't need them in Twilight Princess to find it, or I don't know. I mean, that's also shit you can talk about or figure that out on your own. But this is my way. So anyway, um, Links to the Past. Um, yeah, he does his shit, and you know, that's just where it is from there. Um, now, Ocarina of Time, the failure. Um, so what happens is this that Link leads Ganon to the Sacred Realm, and he draws the Master Sword and disappears in time. So, if that never happened, as in Link going to the future and stopping Ganondorf, um, Hyrule is basically screwed. Um, with the official timeline saying that A Link to the Past goes to A Link's Awakening to Oracle series, that's all bullshit. Um, honestly, um, where I believe this is where Legend of Zelda happens. It's just Ocarina of Time, Legend of Zelda. That's the failure, because um, Link never goes to the future. Hyrule is destroyed. Not destroyed, but ran over. But in Legend of Zelda, the very first Legend of Zelda, the overworld, um, you know, there's no cities, there's no towns. There's a couple of like churches and caves and old dudes, but that's all it. The whole area is desolated and apocalyptic, and it just makes sense. If Ganondorf were to take over, that's where Zelda, Legend of Zelda would take place. You know, um, he is already like mighty and pig-like. You know, let's say, you know, Link does his thing. He gathers the 8 pieces to Triforce of Wisdom. You know, I mean, it makes sense. You know, they don't talk about the courage because it's still in Link. You know, yeah, he defeats Ganon, Silver Arrow, or something like that. I guess that time they discovered another way to defeat Ganon. Um, and then directly there's Legend of Zelda 2, Adventures of Link. Obviously a direct sequel because Ganon's minions hunt him down. They try to use his blood to revive him, but that's the end of it. I mean, they fail. Not Link this time. They fail, and hooray, Hyrule is finally saved. So the Minish Cap, Four Swords, and Four Swords Adventures. That's a trilogy, you know. Um, Four Swords. That's where Vati is all powerful and stuff. Minish Cap. That's where Vati is introduced. Here's a trilogy: Minish Cap, Four Swords, and Four Swords Adventures. At the end of Minish Cap, you supposedly defeat Vati, but I guess he somehow survives. Um, Eslo dips out, but he does give you his, little hat. Um, Four Swords Adventures, um, you know, Zelda, how's Four Swords? Well, they're already friends, they're childhood friends. Same thing in Minish Cap. Link and Zelda, they're already friends. Um, Same thing with Skyward Sword. I don't know if there's like a connection of how Link and Zelda already know each other. But with Minish Cap, Four Swords, and Four Swords Adventures, it's all the same Link. It's all the same Zelda. Um, and Four Swords, I mean, you're gonna defeat Vati. He isn't gonna come back after Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, and Twilight Princess. No, it's a trilogy. It's one after the other. Um, so where I would put this is after either the adult timeline after Spirit Tracks or the childhood timeline. For one, the adult timeline, the Master Sword is gone. It's with the Triforce under the bottom of the sea. They established New Hyrule, um, and the hero of men could be relating to any of the links prior to that. I mean, as far as the heroes go, they only establish Hero of Time, Hero of Wind, and Hero of Men. Um, Obviously, Hero of Time comes before Hero of Wind. So where does Hero of Men land? Who knows? So I would say mostly adult timeline because, like I said, uh, the Master Sword is gone. You know, they need a new sword. Oh look, there's the four swords. And the seven maidens. Um, it doesn't really. I don't know. It just doesn't fit with the official timeline. For the childhood timeline, I would say, because you know, um, Ganon's done. They don't need the Master Sword anymore. Um, After A Link to the Past, um, you know, Ganon's dead, Aghanim's dead, Vadi's wait no, Vadi's doesn't even exist yet. But the whole um, Sacred Forest, Lost Woods, Sacred Grove. I mean, it's a shady place. Like it's just yeah. Um, so let me go over this again. Skyward Sword, Ocarina of Time. There's nothing in between. That's how I would see it. Um, from the Ocarina of Time going to the adult timeline, Wind Waker, Phantom Hourglass, Link's Awakening, Spirit Tracks, and then the Minish Cap and Four Swords series. Um, oh yeah, and then there's Oracles, but then like I said before, fuck Oracles. Doesn't Nothing special that affects the timeline happens in it. So that's the adult timeline. Um, the childhood timeline would be Majora's Mask, Twilight Princess, A Link to the Past. And then the failure timeline is just Zelda and Zelda 2. That's it. Um, I know this is just like there's not any visual aid or anything, but I'll write it in the description box. I don't know. Like this is just me uploading from my webcam, my thoughts, my response, um, my discontent with the official Zelda timeline. I mean, I'm open to ideas. It's just like don't get me wrong. The I was a strong believer of the two timeline split theory. The adult timeline, child timeline. I had evidence and facts of how it lands into two. With the whole failure timeline, it's like, damn, you got me. I did not think of that. But just the arrangement of some specific games, it's just throwing it off. It makes it really like um, just unbelievable, not in a good way. Um, I am displeased with um, Miyamoto and Aonuma, however you pronounce their names. But otherwise, I mean, if you do think about it, it could make some sense in some ways. But I just feel like there's other evidence that are stronger for where they should land with each specific games. And sorry, I'm rambling. I didn't really go through much planning before I made this. Like I said, this is just the thoughts in my head. I didn't even write this down. I'm just looking at the official timeline picture. And yeah. I mean, as a hardcore Zelda fan, like if I do say so myself, um, that's I'm just pretty irritated too. But yeah, that's my Zelda timeline. I would provide more facts, but I'm really lazy. So yeah.